Good morning. March the 10th, regular council meeting in Frontenac Islands will start. We will begin this meeting by acknowledging that we are meeting on land that has been under the stewardship of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Huron-Wendat for time immemorial. As settlers, we are grateful for the opportunity to meet, live, and play on this land, and we thank all generations of Indigenous peoples from the past to the present who currently continue to extend the sharing of this land with us. We recognize and deeply appreciate their ongoing connection to this place. We also recognize the contribution of Métis, Inuit, and other Indigenous peoples who now make this region their home and who have both shaped and strengthened this community and our province and country as a whole. As settlers, this recognition of the contributions and ongoing importance of Indigenous peoples to the area must also be clearly and overtly connected to our collective commitment to make the promise and the challenge of truth and reconciliation real in our communities and to bring justice for murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls across this country. Now, is there any declaration of pecuniary interest in general nature thereof? Seeing none, we have a presentation from Joe Galvin, Director of Planning and Economic Development of Frontenac County and Services for 2022-24. Welcome.
Morning, Mayor and members of council. Pleased to be here this morning. It's every year I come out to talk to you and to the other two townships we provide planning services for, to let you know the work we did for you last year. Go over some of the statistics we have over the last 5 or more years of work we've done at both the county and township level, and also what's in our work plan coming up for 2025 and 2026. So yeah, so the first thing is I just want to talk to you briefly about the planning services agreement. That's an agreement that's signed by all townships, including South Frontenac, even though they don't use our planning services. That lays out our 100% full cost recovery for the hours. We track our hours using a tracking system, a billing system by project, by municipality. So I'm very confident that the numbers we have are fairly accurate. I'm also going to talk about the workload we did over last year, both county and township, as well our planning people. Next, please. So as I mentioned, that the agreement was initiated in 2018. We started working with, actually the islands were the first municipality that our county office started working with, and I believe that was 2014. But at some point, the one township that was not getting our service to South Frontenac said they were questioning whether it was fair whether we were not offering 100% cost recovery. So working with our CAO at the time and the other CAOs who came up with this planning services agreement, as I said, all of our hours are tracked. That's myself, our manager, Sonia Bolton, as well as our planners. Just for clarity, any of the mapping that's done for your reports, the GIS, that is not part of the billing. And when we bring in summer students, as we will again this year, that is not part of the billing. All the hours they put in is not billed to the townships. And that's because we're trying to offer students an opportunity to grow, and it's not part of the agreement. Next, please. So this is a chart that shows the, again, the agreement is a 3-year, what's called a 3-year rolling average. And the reason that that's in place is the intent is to take the bumps out of the system. There may be a year or years where one of the townships is working on a major planning project, whether it's an official plan review, or it's the work we did a number of years ago on the Maryville secondary plan, those kinds of things. In order for the billing to not go spike in any given year, we average 3 years. So if you take a look at the islands, your numbers are going down. They've gone down consistently since 2022. Of those 3 years, the average number of hours we put in is just over 520. I'm fairly certain over the next few years that those hours will continue to be lower than higher. And I'll explain why in a minute here. One of the things that all 3 townships have done to make our process more efficient. So last year, your share of our total hours was just over 11%. But because the two previous years were higher, the 3-year share, which is used for billing, is just a little higher than that. But you can see, if you look at the previous 3-year share, it was 12.5, now it's down to 11.6. Next, please. So that you can see, this is the total hours we put in for all 3 townships, and that chart makes it really clear what happened when the pandemic took place in 2020. We were inundated with planning inquiries across the board from all 3 townships. And you can see what it did to our work for all 3 townships in terms of hours. We're now starting to come back to normal, if I can use that word. So this year, there were 1,700 plus hours, and that's the lowest it's been since 2020. Next, please. So again, between 2023 and 2024, the overall township hours went down 20%. That's mostly because of Central Frontenac, and I'll show you that in a moment. We're down almost 800 hours since the peak in 2022. And that's a good news story in the sense that when we're not doing township work, we can do the big regional projects like communal services or the county official plan that helps the entire county itself. Central, 34% decline in hours year to year. You were down 9%. And as usual, many of the hours we do for township planning is development planning inquiries, the applications, the rezonings, etc., rather than the policy planning, which is like official plan amendments, doing a new official plan for a municipality, or doing work like the Marysville secondary plan. Next, please. These are your hours. And again, steady decline since 2021, which peaked at 623, and now we're down to 489. That's the lowest since 2020. You can see things started to pick up in 2019, 2020, and that's in part because that's when we started to work on Marysville. And that took at least 100 plus hours a year because it was managing a consultant and then actually doing the work and having the public meetings and consultation, etc. Next, please. So specifically for Frontenac Islands, like you're down 9% between years, just under 500 hours. Most of the hours, 230, are related to development planning. But we get a lot of calls, we get a lot of emails, we get a lot of inquiries before there's an application filed, and that alone took almost 90 hours, 22% of our time. And then we had 2 planning files that were complex. So I'm going to show you planning numbers in a minute, but you have to bear in mind, sometimes we get a file and it's not straightforward and it takes up a lot of hours. And there were 2 last year that took over 60. Next, please. So this is applications by total number by each township, and you can really see what happened right in the heart of the pandemic in 2021. 174 applications. We were basically doing no county planning work. It just took over all our office. In my position as director, I'm not supposed to be writing planning applications, but I was in the trenches too. It was a lot of, that was quite a crazy year, if I can say so, but things have started to come down. Next, please. So again, 4 years in a row, we've had a decline from that high of 174 down to 94 last year. It's quite a drop. North had a slight increase last year, just 2. Central went down by 10, and you went down by 6, from 16 to 10. Next, please. This is the chart that shows the type of applications that we dealt with over last year. So a total of 94 when all 3 are combined. The one that really is important is the second line, that is delegated authority of consents. So each 3 townships agreed to pass a bylaw about a year ago that allowed us under the Planning Act to take those planning applications that are straightforward land severances. Somebody may be adding a small part to their lot, or they're creating a new lot that meets all the zoning, doesn't need any variances. The application is circulated to the neighbors, there's no response from them. Those are then delegated to staff. You had 40% 4 of your 10, but 41 of 94 across Frontenac. And they really save us a lot of time. We don't have to write a detailed planning report. You don't have to hold a public meeting. It helps the applicant because they don't have to wait for the appeal period to end. The consent is granted, and then they can move to having the lot registered. So that's a big positive change, and I believe that will keep making our work more efficient moving forward. And this year will be even more telling because it'll be for 12 months of the year. Next, please. So these are the hours I did at the county. And last year we had I can't read that number because it's too small for me, but anyway, it represented 60% of our total hours for 2024. Now it's a little less than the year before. And that's primarily due to the fact that our senior planner, Mr. Kurlyovich, was on paternity leave for 12 weeks last year, for the quarter of the year. So we were down a planner for a quarter of the year, and that reflected keeping our overall numbers. We brought in an extra student to help cover his time, but again, those hours are not billed to the townships. Next, please. So again, 6% decrease from the year before. My work in my position as director was about a third of the total hours, just over 820 hours. That involves me doing some of the major projects, but also managing the department, dealing with county management issues, et cetera, et cetera. Some of the major projects we did countywide, communal services, 400 hours of our time last year, probably 85% of that time was my work. I suspect this year it's going to decline. The utility is up and running, standing on its own. As of last month, the utility just hired a chief executive officer who is going to be not working on a full-time basis, but will be managing the utility. I'll still be involved with the technical working group on best practices, but I believe those hours will go down. And then we're working on official plan amendments for all 3 townships. So I'll be back fairly soon with a report for your municipality to talk to you about where you want to see communal services in your municipality. Do you want them, for example, just on Wolf? Do you want them only in the village? Do you want to allow rural development, rural plans of subdivision to be built on communal, and at what scale? Those kinds of questions you need to talk to your community about. So that'll be happening this year. The community planning permit system project, if you recall, really what that is all about is a new planning tool that we're implementing across the Frontenacs, all 4 townships, that is going to be the best tool available to protect your shoreline. Each of the 4 townships have invested $25,000 in this project. We are under budget. We continue to be under budget. But that work will continue all of this year. There won't be a final product back to you till late this year or early next year. It's a lot of heavy duty work and a lot of communication with the public and with staff as well. Countywide natural heritage study, which is the environmental study about protecting our wetlands, our forests, et cetera, et cetera. When the county official plan, the first one was done in 2016, one of the foundational pieces was a regional study. First one that was done in Eastern Ontario. But it's out of date, and we're looking at a new approach. So the county council gave us budget money for that 4 years ago, but you saw the numbers we had to spend on the township hours. We haven't been able to do that, but I'm now leading that project, and it'll get rolling this year. And then we'll be updating our county official plan. Oh, sorry, it's not quite okay. So Frontenac, no, that's okay. My apologies. So Frontenac official plan. So county council approves all updates or brand new official plans. So Frontenac's current plan is 25 years old, so they're doing a major overhaul. And Sonia Bolton is the lead person in our department working with South Frontenac planning staff. It took over 75 hours of our time last year. We're already at 50 hours this year, but we're in the home stretch. Hopefully they'll have their final draft ready in the next month or 2. And then we'll be coming to county council for review and approval. Next, please. So the work, here's the projects we'll be working on this year. I've already gone through them. The community planning permit system, that's led by Mr. Kurliovich. Communal services work, the natural heritage study. Most of my major hours are gonna shift to that work, at least for the first half of this year. I'll be taking a work plan to county council to update our regional plan this year. Unlike the work we did in 2016, that took me 2.5 years to do. The plan at the county is very high level. My recommendation to county council will be, let's make some minor changes to bring it up to date with the current provincial planning statement. And some of the other issues that needs to be cleaned up, but it's not a major overhaul. It certainly won't involve the hours that I put in more than 10 years ago. But all of these projects will be relevant to your municipality. Next, please. And then at the township level, here's some of the big projects we're working on this year. We're still working with Central Frontenac on the former school site right in the heart of Charlotte Lake. Redeveloping that vacant land using communal services, potentially up to 40 units, brand new units right in the heart of the village. Be a lot of work put into it this year. I've already mentioned the South Frontenac plan. Marysville design standards and zoning amendments. We'll be coming to you with a report to recommend that we start to look at the zoning for the village. It's really out of date. And it has an impact, especially on your main street. The commercial zoning is not reflective of what's on the ground. And we feel it's important that we start that work this year. So we'll be coming forward for your endorsement in the next few months. And then, as I already said, we're working on official plan amendments for all 3 municipalities, and I'll be back to see you the next 2 months on that one as well. Next, please. So some of the intangibles, you just never know what's going to happen. What's going to be the volume of planning applications? Secondly, if we get a planning application that's complex, it could take a lot of hours. To give you an example, we dealt with one file in North Frontenac this year that took up 20% of our total hours. Very complicated waterfront project, but also a lot of public interest. So a lot of time spent talking to the public. And then planning issues that come out of the blue that could be coming from the province. Is the province going to make more changes? I don't know. But they may, and we'll have to address them. If we get an appeal on a planning file, that, depending on what it is, that can take up a lot of time. Subdivision applications on communal services, as I noted in the memo, we didn't spend a lot of hours dealing with subdivisions last year, and I don't expect we will this year either, because we're not seeing any development activity at this time on subdivision plans. They are an expensive proposition for a developer, so they have to be prepared. But I suspect by 2026 or 2027, once the Frontenac's plan is in effect and the word on what Frontenac is doing with the utility will be more out to the development industry, that we'll start to see some activity. And then other requests that I don't know right now, but may just happen over the next 12 months. So I think that's it, and I'll be happy to take any questions that you have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Jablonski.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Joe, thanks for a great presentation, the updates. Looking forward to hearing about the zoning coming in more months. Other than that, no questions. Thank you.
Councillor Holt.
No, great presentation, Joe. No question.
Thank you.
Councillor Saunders.
Thank you, Mayor. Joe, thank you and your group for all the work you do. You've mentioned before about our zoning and Main Street specifically. If nothing happens there, what's the risk to us as council? Like, what are we at risk for?
So what we're hearing from some of the businesses on the Main Street, they want to do something different. And it will require them to go through a lot of steps because the property is not zone commercial. So it's really to be more proactive, to make a decision that most of the Main Street should be commercial, and here's what permitted uses are and what the scale of development should be. So it's made very clear, because it's not clear at all right now.
So if I could just further expand on that. So if we have a business on Main Street who may be operating in a improperly zoned, if they want to do some expansion to the business or whatever, would that be a hindrance to them, or is there a way around that?
It would be a hindrance under the existing zoning. There's a business on the Main Street right now. It's in an old house. It's on the east side of the village. We've had conversations with the owners. They'd like to expand their operation. the current zoning won't allow them to do it, they have to ask your permission and they have to go through a number of hurdles.
Okay.
We put the zoning in place, it's very clear to them and other potential investors on the main street what they can do.
Hey, Councillor Ackley?
So great job again, Joe. I don't have any comments really.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a few questions. One was you said hours do not include the GIS mapping. Can you give a ballpark of how much is billed to us for GIS mapping? I assume that's for when we have severances and things of that nature, or?
I honestly, I don't know. I don't know if there is, it's not like cost recovery like our planning services. I think it's part of the county levy.
Okay,
So it's not billed directly to you. That's my understanding, but I'm not certain on that.
okay, and you said that we don't get billed for summer planning students, but last year we were billed for supervision of summer planning students. I think it was around 47 hours or
Yes.
so. So.
That was the Queen's, sorry, I
Yeah.
didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
That was the Queen's Planning School project on design standards for Marysville. So Ms. Bolton managed that project just to make sure that the students were going in the right direction. And the total number of hours by that Queen's Planning School was in the hundreds, if not over 1,000 hours, but we did, because we were managing that, we did bill for that.
Okay, and when you're talking about the consents and delegated authority in that, I see North Frontenac and Central had very high compared to us at 18, 19, we had 4. I'm wondering, is that primarily related to the nuances of the kick and push trail that we have, or?
No, it's mostly rural lands in North and Central. And again, one of the obstacles you have, especially on Wolf, is the prime agricultural lands, which you cannot create a residential lot in the residential lot. So I would suspect you're always gonna have fewer consents. Less land area as well as the Central. North, only a third of the land area in North is privately owned, the rest is crown land, but they do get a lot of applications in those areas for land division.
Okay, and you also mentioned that this year you're planning on the Marysville design standards as well as the zoning amendments for the existing Marysville, but we have Marysville secondary plans on hold and that, and from a communal services perspective and that, I'm not sure there is unfortunately an appetite at the level that we have for council. And as a matter of fact, I have one counselor that told me there'll never be communal services, which is really an opportunity missed. So I wonder about this.
Okay, if I can clarify
Yeah.
that, so the design standards is the work the Queen students did. You remember the public
Yeah.
meetings they had, and they went through the entire village, looked at every single property and what was on the property. And so that zoning I'm talking about for the village is just the existing village.
Okay,
It's not the lands that have been added to the village that are vacant, that potentially could be for new development on communal service.
okay. Would a strategic plan from the township be of benefit for something like this moving forward?
Strategic plan, well, I'm a planner, so, I think it is an essential piece of work that this council needs to do. Usually a council starts to work at the beginning of their term. And it helps set the vision, not just for land use planning, but, you know, your financial decisions, your community investment decisions, all those things. So I'm very biased to say that I really highly recommend you do a strategic plan. Maybe you wait till the next council because you're 3 years into this council. And it should be the vision of the group around this table that puts that plan together.
Would we be putting the cart before the horse and doing any rezoning in the village without a strategic plan?
No, this is just about the bones of the village right now, what's on the ground right now. The zoning has never reflected what's on the ground in Marysville. It's almost suburban in nature in terms of the setback, especially the main street.
Yeah.
Somebody has a vacant lot or they want to tear a house down or tear a building down and rebuild, the setbacks are suburban. And you really want to fit into the character, the sense of place of the village. You would want that new building of a certain height and with a pitched roof or a flat roof that's characteristic of the village, you want it closer to the street. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure that new development is gonna fit into the existing village.
Okay, thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, if I could have a follow-up question. Joe, I'm playing with the numbers a little bit here, I just want to get understanding of the value of stuff. So if I understand the report properly, we've got billed about $75,000.
Yes, and I can tell you that works out to $138.39 an hour.
Well, you one step ahead, because that's.
$138.39 an hour, and if I may, I believe that is very good value, because if it was a planning consultant, you would pay far more than that. I would, if you take a look at the billing you get from another profession, the legal profession, it's a lot higher than $138 an hour, and the other benefit is we've got a bench of planners, like we always have someone available to talk. And unlike a professional planning consultant, our only client is Frontenac, so.
Well, thank you, this is my question, thank you, and that's really what I was gonna ask you, can you put some perspective on that? It seems like a lot per hour, but
Yeah.
provide some
So
perspective.
just to give you an example, the community planning permit system work we're doing. The company that on the scope is called Planscape. I believe the lead planner, which would be someone, you know, kind of with my experience, is billing over $200 an hour. The other planner is billing about $175. Our hours aren't billed like, you're not paying, our billing hours are the same, whether it's Joe, who has a higher salary than say Jenny. It's a consistent number, so you're not paying, if I'm involved in a project like I was in Marysville, you're not paying a premium,
Thank you.
okay?
Okay. Any other questions? Okay,
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Moved by Deputy Mayor Saunders, second by Councillor Ackley, that council thank Mr. Gallivan for his presentation today.
all those in favor?
Thanks, Council.
Thank you. Thanks, Bill. Okay. Now we're going to move on to the consent agenda, and the first one is the adoption and receipt of the minutes for the February 10th public meetings and the February 10th council meetings.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So before we proceed, it was brought to my attention over the weekend that there was an error in the February 10th council meeting minutes with respect to Ms. Cliff. There was part of a paragraph there that was not from her. I have made that amendment. So I've removed that from the February 10th minutes. So what will be presented for signature at the end of the meeting will be the amended version. So if there's anything else,
What part of the paragraph?
the last part of the paragraph, I believe, ending for Miss Cliff, ending at website, and the remainder of that paragraph to be struck.
Okay. Thank you. All right, any discussion further to that? All those in favor? Pass. Now we're at the information items and watch file. And there's a few that I'd like to speak to, and that are there any others? Councillor Saunders.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to pull out the FMSC February 6th meeting minutes and TSC February 27th meeting minutes for some further background from our members on this committee.
Okay. Anyone else want to pull out anything? I'll pull AMO February 13th and February 20th and Eorn Selgat as well. So do we need to put on the floor first for discussion?
Moved by Councillor Ackley, second by Councillor Jablonski, that the February 10th, 2025 public meeting minutes be adopted as presented and the council meeting minutes be adopted as amended, and that the information items be received and applied.
Okay, Councillor Saunders, would you like to speak to your issues?
Yes, sorry, Madam, they're not issues specifically, just in reading the minutes from those notes, it appears there's a lot of discussion, and I was wondering if members of those committees could provide some further perspective on just where we're going with that. Press.
Councillor Jablonski.
Yep, I'll start this short. Yeah, well, from the management's point of view, we've actually now hired our CEO to manage the FMSC, Justin Greenberg. He started earlier this month on the 3rd, so he's in place now. He'll be getting his feet wet for the next month or so, getting ready to go. He's on a small 20-hour shift, not too much to put too much of his time. And yeah, it's gonna be a learning curve for Justin. His background is really good. He has a lot of contacts with the municipalities. So we had 4 people actually apply for that position. And Justin was, there was 2 pretty good guys. Justin was just that much better than the other guy. So we have hired him. He's good to go. As I said, he started a few days ago.
What was his last name again?
Bloomberg. Just the way it's spelled.
Okay. Any other questions, Councillor Saunders?
No, I don't know, if Councillor Halton has any comment on the,
So I was unable to attend the meeting, but I have talked to the rest of the committee since Clearford is our operator, is on board now, and that's really gonna help with getting the setup and moving the process along. We're watching the Verona project really closely. They're 2 years into it, and that's gonna be the learning curve. We're gonna learn on it as we go, and we'll see how we can streamline the project when they get done. Also, we will be getting training as to duty of care, standard of care for all the township councils.
sorry, could you explain that last part, duty of care training for councils?
Yes, so council is ultimately responsible for the water system. So it is the only thing that you as a councillor can be sued for personally is for something to do with water. So there's mandatory training for all the township councils.
Danger pay?
Yeah,
Okay, I have a question on that because I thought the whole point of setting up a freestanding committee for this communal was to protect any township and have it as a freestanding self-regulating community outside. So I'm quite surprised to hear that the township could be sued for something done by a freestanding group.
ultimately, at the end of the day, the townships are the owner of it. You can't get away from it. It's much the same as utility in Kingston. Freestanding set up away from the city of Kingston, but the councillors still are ultimately the owners of it, so they're responsible.
So if there was a lawsuit regarding Charlotte Lake, all councils would be
We
involved.
could be.
Well, that's news to me. Is it news to anybody else around this table?
So to clarify, so if it happened in Charlotte Lake, our council, because it's part of council,
Technically, you could be because we are one of the owners of the corporation, so.
So what insurance and liability has been taken out by the group and is now recommended to the township councils to take on?
Well, there really isn't any more insurance that you can take out. It's just that you need to be aware, and as long as it's not an issue, as long as you're aware of that and you follow the regulations. You just, where you get in trouble is if we try and short the water utility money, because we don't give them enough money to operate safely, so.
Okay, I think I feel more comfortable in that if our CAO investigate board insurance, if there can be some extension to councils and that, or if it's covered under any municipal opportunity in that, because this is a liability that was not articulated in that from the get-go on this particular system. And I have read all the previous documents and it was clear that it was to be separate and apart. So I want to make sure that we're well covered. Is there anyone in disagreement with that direction to CAO?
I just think that maybe when we get the training, that would be the time to, we'll just have them include that in the training, that if there is any more insurance, but I think it'll be clearer once you get the training on.
If there's separate and apart issues between training and covering our backside. Councillor Jablonski.
Let me, thanks, ma'am. Let me actually contact, we're meeting again. When was the FMC meeting? When we meet again, we'll ask that question directly to Kevin. Let's ask the people who are actually putting this together instead of bothering our staff and see what they come back with. They may have already something in place that we're not aware of yet. So I would ask that we hold off on that, work and see what the, Kevin Farrell and the rest of the team have, got in place already.
Okay, I honestly don't think it's a large question because Intact Insurance is the company that actually provides almost everybody with board insurance and such. There you go. So I'll call for a vote on the direction to staff and that one. On extending any board insurance to this particular communal services at this time. And if we have a no vote on that, then I guess we'll wait and see. All those in favor of direction to staff to ask the,
Question.
yep,
Wouldn't you be asking for individual insurance then?
no, it goes to the,
No, you're asking for individual insurance because they can sue you as an individual through this, so it'd be individual insurance that you'd be looking to get.
okay. Okay. So we'll go back to the direction that all those in favor of the CAO asking our insurer on this topic at this point in time. All those opposed and would like to wait. Okay, don't have to do anything at this point in time. All right. So. That satisfies your questions there, Councillor Saunders?
Yes, ma'am, I would ask that you refer to me as deputy mayor.
Deputy Mayor
Appreciate
Saunders,
that.
yes, I'll try to keep that in mind.
Thank you.
Okay. Back to the AMO file of February the 13th. I know our treasurer has worked with getting the grant money for the memorial. Was that through the Canadian Fallen Heroes Foundation War Memorial that is cited?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I believe so. Again, I assisted with the grant application. Just off the top of my head, I believe that was where the funding stream was from.
Okay. And because it's talking about the AMO conference, it's coming up in August, and we aren't yet at the position of submitting any requests for delegations, but we are going to be looking at our work plans and things of that nature. Has there been consideration by the CAO or yourselves for making any representation for our municipality on any requests for funding and support from the different ministries at this point in time, in particular infrastructure and that, but also Ministry of Transportation and Ministry of Health and any others?
Through you, Madam Mayor. No, I have not at this point in time. There was further follow-up that we were going to look into with respect to the Ministry of Health and our delegation that we had at Roma. We were not granted a Ministry of Infrastructure with respect at Roma. But certainly the direction of council, whichever they wish to proceed with for AMO.
Okay, and the February 20th, and it has the Municipal Risk Resiliency Fund mentioned that has a cutoff date of May 1st, and I know it's not a large fund. That being said, has there been any consideration for what Public Works has been looking for?
Through you, Madam Mayor, from my understanding of that grant, it is a fund available for municipalities looking kind of for innovative or new ways for risk management to get funding for their initiatives. At this time, we haven't seriously looked at that. Off the top of my head, I don't know as a municipality if we are doing anything innovative in that space as far as risk management that would be applicable to the grant. But with the May deadline, we can take a closer look. Just from my perspective, we've just mostly been trying to get on track and kind of get things in a good place. We're not quite at the stage where I'd say we're innovating on things right now.
Okay, for a suggestion, I would point out that we don't have duct bills to stop the water when it's high flowing back in to the drains. And that affects not only the village area and that, but also up towards Big Sandy Bay where we have stone encampments around the end of our drains out. However, when the water comes up and over, and that it actually flows back into the field. So I think we probably should look at something for that.
Just to follow up, then just with on that, I can speak to our foreman Keith in Public Works on Wolf and just see his thoughts on it.
Okay. And there's also mention of a CCPPP free learning series and that for procurement, and I was wondering if we were taking advantage of that.
To be made aware, no, we have not applied or asked to be part of that training at this time.
And well, free, so it's sort of nice to have that level of expertise. So thank you very much for answering those questions for me. The last one I have is regarding the Eorn cell gap project. And considering the premier has announced that he has canceled Starlink, Starlink was the provider of the cells for this gap. Do we know where we're standing with that? Is there another provider or have we made any inquiry into that? And we'll CEO for that.
Through you, Madam Mayor, no, not at this time. The CAOs for the county will be meeting in the next month, so certainly approach the subject there, sorry.
Okay. All right, any other questions? No, okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Moved by Councillor Ackley, second by Councillor Jablonski, that the February 10th, 2025 public meeting minutes be adopted as presented, and that the February 10th, 2025 council meeting minutes be adopted as amended, and that the information items be received and filed.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Now we're at staff reports. We have a finance report. FL 001-25 2024 Q4 year-to-date financial report. I
Thank you.
assume it's going to be the treasurer.
Yeah, thank you through you, Madam Mayor. So just to kind of start off the report, the purpose today is just to kind of give a high level overview of the financial standings of the township for the 2024 fiscal year. There are a couple of things I just want to note off the bat. First, none of these numbers have been audited. We have yet to have a year-end audit. The second piece as well is we're still preparing for the audit. Not everything's locked down. The vast majority of the transactions are recorded, which is why I feel comfortable bringing the report, because it does give you guys a picture, and I think it's helpful to be informed as far as you can. With that being said, you know, with the audit or fully preparing for year end, some numbers may be subject to change. So I just wanted to preface that before beginning. The report is a little bit long and it has lots of numbers. So assuming you've all read through it, I'm just going to go through and give some of the kind of bigger highlights as we go through. First, looking at the township as a whole, the township did really strong from a financial perspective. Overall, we had more revenues than we expected. Our operating expenditures were lower than we expected. Some of the capital came in higher than was budgeted. But overall, as it stands right now, that leaves us with $191,000 surplus. Again, just being conservative as we get to the audit and finishing up, that number might change slightly, but I do feel you know, likely we'll have that surplus once we get the audited financial statements. Just speaking to general, kind of what moved the needle on the revenue side. Our investments performed better than we expected, as well as we had higher than expected and revenue earned on interest and penalty on taxation. One piece to note, we'll hopefully see that revenue go down in the future as we do tax sales and we try to capture some of the uncollected tax on properties. Again, doing the budget, I know tax sales upcoming, so it's hard to predict that effect, but for now, it has given us a little bit of a revenue boost. For general departments on the operating expense side, we saw savings in the council department. We saw it as well in the emergency management. Where we see operating, where we came in a little over budget, we saw that in the admin department. As stated in the report, this was largely driven by some of the contracted services the township has, whether it be legal. Last year, there was the new auditing accounting standard for asset retirement obligations, which required consultant work. We had the asset management plan. So just some of those factors kind of increased those costs. On the capital side, the only work that ended up being done, where we have this money recorded is just the transfer to the Frontenac Municipal Services Corporation, which we are in agreement and we make those annual transfers that have been set. Moving on to Wolf Island, from a revenue and an operating perspective, it was very close to budget for both revenues and expenses. Just a little over 1% for the revenues and 1% for the operating expenses. Again, kind of as I go through the report, there was a lot of effort by management and staff across the board to try to really stick to the budget and, you know, make sure the township stays in a strong financial position. Just kind of through the departments, we saw kind of under budget with roads and the senior housing department. Perry did have a little bit higher operating costs. There was some additional purchases of cable just to make sure that had to get changed through, and then we had kind of backup for stock. But overall, like I said, on a budget of 1.5 million, we were within, I believe, oh, sorry, I just lost. We were very close to what the actual costs were. Where there might be some little bit more explanation is on the capital side. So when you look at the actual tables, you can kind of see a lot more variances here. So I did highlight in the report, one of the reasons was for the fire department. The fire truck and pumper weren't part of the original budget, but there was a report taken to council where reserve transfers were approved. So that's where you're seeing some of the revenue, as well as some of the increased expenses. For the roads department, besides loan payments, the capital purchase was the purchase of the mower for Wolf Island. That came in under budget. And then I did just want to highlight for the senior housing department, there was funding that we had to get back we had to get back to the Community Foundations of Canada. Just to give a background on this, in late 2022, the township was approved and received a grant for $48,000. At that time, the full amount was recognized into revenue and put into reserve. Starting last year, we received notification from the Community Foundations of Canada asking for us to start submitting our final report information. At that time, because of just the documentation had and that it was put directly into reserves, management was not aware we had the grant or the unspent funds. Due to the scope of the project, based on the time we had, we would not be able to have expenditures that fit the scope. We did an extension with the group, but unfortunately one was not provided. So while some funds were spent on accessible benches and flower pot planters that we use at the area, ultimately $41,000 of that had to be returned, which the money has since been given and that matter is settled. Overall though, oh, and so the other piece I'd like to speak to as well, sorry, is the OSIP money. So just important to note, just from an accounting perspective, sometimes we receive money, we have the money and we have received it, especially in the case of OSIP, but it's not recognized until we have an expense to apply for. So the OSIP money, because we didn't have major road projects last year, it gets added to obligatory reserves, which basically is another way of saying you receive this money. It can't just be used for anything, it has to be used for specific capital projects. So while it kind of looks funny and it kind of contributes to a deficit that we're kind of seeing on Wolf Island, it is money that we have in the bank available to be used at future years. So overall on the reports, again, accounting for that, it shows a deficit of 213. But when excluding the impact on the OSIP funding, it was only a deficit of 11,000, which again, on a budget of close to 1.5 million, I'd say that's very kind of strong performance from the Wolf Island departments. Moving through, we're on to Howe, so we're almost there. Again, the Howe had very strong financial results. The most significant variance we saw on the revenue side related to a decrease in the MTO subsidy. Again, that was driven by lower expenses, which is noted down below, came down to mostly salary and benefits being a little bit lower than expected. Other than that, across the board, from an operating perspective, all departments again came in under budget, which showed very strong results for Howe Island. Again, I know our chief Mike Quinn has done a lot of effort to ensure that these departments operate on budget as best they can. Referring to the capital, again, there's a similar situation with OSIF where we have received all that money. It's just not recognized as a revenue for the township. We were able, as with Wolf Island, to procure the mowers under budget. Lastly, the septic system that was put into Patrick Norris Park, we budgeted 64,500 and that came in under 58,961. Just again, moving all onto the summary, I'd just like to thank management and staff for all the efforts they did. Again, kind of last year as we've transitioned to new management and everyone working together, it was nice to see that we were able to come together as a group and have a strong year that positions us to continue to do well from a financial perspective going into 2025 and further beyond. Again, a lot of questions and a lot of numbers, so I'll be happy to take any questions from council at this point if you'd like further clarification.
Councillor Jablonski.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. First, I'll address the youth, staff, everybody. 180,000 under budget. All their staff, great job. Keep it up. Can we see 200,000 next year? I want to say great job to you and the crew and keep it going, buddy. Keep it going.
Councillor Holton.
I would echo the same thing. Great job. It's wonderful to see. Thanks.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Saunders.
Thank you, Mayor. So a couple of things. First of all, to the treasurer, you apologize for a very long report. I would like to congratulate you on a very thorough report.
Thank you.
So let's clarify that. Just echoing, I won't echo what's been said already in terms of the work that staff's done. I've worked in organizations where, so this is a question I think for the treasurer. I've worked in organizations where around March the 1st or some day, magic day, people say, oh, we still got money in the budget, go and buy stuff. And people buy stuff even if they don't need it. I would like to know if we have a policy in place that manages our surpluses or whatever, so that we don't fall into the trap of just spending money because it's there. So are there policies that would help us with that?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, we currently don't have a policy. I believe again, to the financial spending or with respect to reserve, it is something we're working on to get an actual reserve policy. What I would speak to, and again, from practice, what we're doing, if departments have surpluses, that money goes into the appropriate reserve for that department. Same, if there was a deficit, we would apply to the same. Basically, besides the surplus deficit entries, if something's needed to come from reserves, I would bring a report to council. Just because we had, excess money this year, does not mean staff or management would then say, hey, we have an extra, $40,000 in this department. Once it goes to reserves, it does require council direction. As far as getting to the end of the year and we look at the budget, we have numbers. As a management group, we do look at the budgets and what we have available. And I think there's kind of confidence with the managers that, if the department has a surplus, it's going to go to reserves and, they can take a report to council to use it later. There might be something, for example, practically, let's say we budgeted and we need to buy some tools and we get to the end of the year, the budget's available, we haven't bought it. We might say, oh, we should make that purchase because that was brought to budget by council and they have approved it. But if we've done everything that we wanted to do and there's leftover money, there's definitely not a practice to let's spend it because we have it. It goes to reserves to be used for a future purpose.
Councillor Acker.
Again, like the rest of the team have said, phenomenal job.
Thank you.
And when you got some spare time, can you come do my budget?
He'll never.
Okay, I'm glad to see that we should be finishing in surplus. I was challenged at the last meeting in that regarding coming up with 20,000 for a strategic plan. Sounds like there could be money that could be utilized for a strategic plan. The fact that we have been 2 years late in getting it done, I hate the thought of having to wait 2 more years because it takes a while to get it done. It'd be nice if the next council had a great strategic plan done for them. The wind turbine plant money was all expensed out.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that, so there is nothing put into the wind turbine reserve.
Thank you for pointing that out, Madam Mayor. So no, basically with this report, a transfer to the reserve is recorded as an expense. So basically how we do the budget, we have the revenue, I put everything to reserves. Within the 2024 budget, I think there was some amounts that came out of reserves, but so no, the majority of that money of the 645 went directly into the wind reserve.
Well, so that'd be nice to have a total
Yeah,
when it comes around to the
Yeah.
final of that. And on line 35,000 roads, and that we have budgeted 172,500, and it shows 411,000. That is actual for the expenses. And I assume part of that is that OSIP money that you're talking about? Or am
Yes, so,
I wrong?
through Madam Mayor, sorry, what specific,
35,000
and-
under the capital expenses on page 75.
and is this for Wolf?
No, this is under township.
Township, okay, thank you.
Right above the seniors housing.
Oh, yes, sorry, thank you for your patience, yes, so basically, the money coming in, why it's higher is because it's getting put into reserves, because it's the OSIP funding,
It
and it
is
has
the
to be
OSIP.
used at a later date.
Okay.
My
and-
apologies for the delay there, lots of
No.
different numbers.
No, I appreciate the accuracy in that. And speaking of accuracy in that, for the Howe Island ferry portion that we have to submit to the county, have we got that included in that? Because they were to commute or send a letter to us and that's telling us what we owed.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, yes, the amount was included, there will be, at the next council, we'll have our final report that will kind of break down all the ferry costs and whatnot.
Will we have to have an additional levy because they had nothing in reserve?
Through you, Madam Mayor, with the report, I believe because you would have attended county council was around $47,000, there actually was some money in reserve, they. Not enough to cover it, but they're, through my conversations and correspondence with the treasurer. They expected that there would be a deficit in 23 that they would have to cover. So the report I bring to council will be a reduction, I believe it's around $25,000 that we'll have to cover. At this time, again, while we prepare the final numbers and get approval from MTO, I'm also kind of discussing that with them as well, so. A kind of final numbers will be presented at the April council meeting.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's a lovely report and it's nice to have this bit of confidence before we get into the actual audit of it. Thank you very much for your efforts.
Thank you.
Okay,
Moved by Councillor Holton, second by Councillor Duwoniki, that finance report number FN -001 -25, the 2024 Q4 year-to-date financial report be received. All those in favor? Carried.
now we're at the administrative report. AD 003-25 to 2025 work plan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So as we did in 2024, the staff have gotten together and prepared a 2025 work plan. It's laid out before you. If there's any questions, I would be happy to take them.
Okay, Councillor Jablonski.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. No questions this time, Vanessa, thank you.
Councillor Holton.
No questions at this time, thanks.
Deputy Mayor Saunders.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you again for the thoroughness of the report. As thorough as it is, though, I was kind of checking my notes, and I think there's other items that we have out there that aren't on here, so. I received a request from a resident regarding whatever happened to the request we sent to the county regarding moving forward on priority boarding. So I don't see that on there. the tax letter just came out and now you're gonna do 24-hour, sort of. Open house on 24-hour layover for the Wolf Founder 4 or the Wolf Founder, well, I guess it would be the Wolf Founder 4. So my point is, there's other stuff that I'm aware of that's not on here. So where does all that fall in? I guess that's a question for the city.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. So yes, it is kind of on my daily to-do kind of list. So with regards to that, I've got the county priority boarding. There's several of us that are working with the county on EMS and what we can do there with respect to Wolf Island and the ferry service. The 2-hour layover, like you had indicated, there was a survey that went out. We will be holding a public meeting on March the 26th for the residents of Wolf Island. Other ongoing things is the medical community as well. The CAOs of the county are working on that as well. So it's, while it may not be on the work plan itself, it is on my list of items that.
So just a further follow-up, Madam Mayor. So I guess two things. One is, I think this is an important document for the public at large to see. So is this posted on the website if one of the people want to go through and understand what projects are on the go and the timing and stuff?
Through you, Madam Mayor. So yes, much like the 2024 budget, once council approves it today, I will have our staff posted on our website.
And just to add to your other comment, your answer, I guess. So while this is very comprehensive, it's not everything that staff are working on.
No, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Ackley?
Yeah, I don't have any comment, good job.
Okay. Well, it's nice to see the work plan that I did have some questions along that line as well. One of them was under the planning section. And that you have new official plan and then not included, new zoning not included. As in timeframes and that, and strategic plan hasn't been mentioned at all. Under the Wolf Island, Big Sandy Bay piece, and that, when are we ever gonna have that bathroom working out there? Is there anything at all?
Through you, Madam Mayor. So my understanding, and Jesse can correct me if I'm wrong, there's some final work that needs to be done, which is drywall and electrical and the fixtures put in. I know staff is going to kind of work on that over the winter, if we could this winter. I don't want to say that it will be up and running for the upcoming season, but I will defer to Jess if you have any further information.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. So to kind of finish those works that was included in our 2025 budget. Part of the delay is we were confirming just with the ministry, just the original grant deadline was the end of December. We were able to get an extension on that, so it was just kind of getting those bits and pieces sorted out before, you know, we moved forward or did anything. As far as timelines, again, it could be something that is able to start in the spring. Internally, while the season kind of starts in May, we are able to operate as normal without the construction, so it is a priority, but it wasn't, you know, anything that would stop us from operating it in the summer. So we weren't necessarily, you know, having the strict hard deadline, it must be done before the season. But with that being said, it does need to get complete in 2025 without question. So we definitely will see some progress on that this year.
So where are we at for water and septic for there then?
As far as the water, I think it will be a tank situation that would funnel the water. The septic, I believe, was previously installed in a prior year, so it's just a matter of hooking up things internally at the building.
Okay, so potentially it's been sitting there
Yeah.
and that, and it seems like it should be moved forward in that, so technically we own the building on Ministry of Natural Resources land, is that correct?
No, it's on our land.
It's on our,
Yes, yeah.
okay, good.
Yeah. Saves us some headaches.
Okay, Councillor Ackley?
But while you're asking that, the question, so water there, so will they be drinking this water or just for potable? For,
Yeah, through my, I don't think dissertation people will drink from that water.
no,
Because, yeah,
Flush
but
toilet.
Yeah.
what if some kid does it?
there won't,
So, you know, like you're gonna wash your hands after you go pee or whatever, maybe.
yeah. I think at that point operationally, we would just need a sign, and say, don't drink the water.
Okay.
To offer a bathroom, I don't think there's much alternative.
You don't need to see.
It'd probably be through public health and
Yeah,
that, the proper signage,
Yeah.
as much as the churches and that. They don't have potable water, they have to bring in extra jugs and things of that nature too. Okay, well. I think that, as I said, if you look at some sort of planning timeframe for this new zoning bylaw and official plan and strategic plan, things like that. It would be sort of helpful. That'd be my view on that. Okay, any further comments? We have Chief Quinn.
If I can, through you, Madam Mayor, I think what's really important for the public record is, although the list is very lengthy, our reality of completing some of these projects now will need to be weighed against increased costs if we're faced with tariff charges, various other things. So depending on the project, I'll use one example. Howe Island is looking for the cutting head for the backhoe to do sumac trees and various things. Is a US based piece of equipment. That's our reality, so you'll need to be weighing out potential cost increase and probably coming back to that conversation.
Actually, even procurement from the US at this point in time, the premier's made the delineation that we won't be doing procurement for a lot of things from the US. I find it hard to believe that Quebec or BC wouldn't have something like that available either.
Don't make anything here.
So I just wanted that put out there for the record, and I think it's gonna take a lot of reworking of a lot of this stuff.
Okay, anything else? Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Saunders, second by Councillor Ackley, that administration report number AD 003-25 regarding the 2025 departmental work plan be received. And further that council endorses the 2025 departmental work plan as presented.
All those in favor? Carried. Okay. Now we're at the administrative report AD 004-25, declaration of surplus property.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So staff brought a report to council in closed session at the last meeting. Staff were directed to proceed with the declaration. So this report is declaring the property legally described as Plan OS Part Lot 2 with the roll number and PIN number in the township. It does not unfortunately have a civic address number, but it is located at what everyone would know as the former fire hall for Wolf Island.
Okay. Questions, Councillor Pivonica,
No questions, thanks, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Holton,
No, I think we went over this and clear. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Saunders,
No questions.
Councillor Ackley.
No questions.
Okay, from a procedural perspective, I would have thought that the surplus declaration would come before anything else. So I wondered about our procedure of dealing with surplus lands.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So the bylaw number 12-2006 is outdated, needs to be brought back to council with an updated. The section that it's quoting is not the current section in the municipal act. That being said, this is what I have to follow for the time being. So to proceed with the declaration of surplus land without the direction of council advising that, yes, it is surplus. Kind of is putting the cart before the horse to declare it if council doesn't foresee it. Being surplus.
Okay, my understanding was for declaration of surplus land is that then we get it assessed, which you did. And that, but then also have an opportune time for people to make the purchase of it based on the assessment amount, et cetera. So I know it was discussed. It seems that we need to make a priority on how to handle and proceed with this, because I'm not comfortable with it, but that's reality. And it was discussed. Oh, Chief Hawkins.
Yeah, if I may go back to that, that's been kind of a sore subject, this land that was down there. Previous council promised, when they got rid of that, that they would build another building for storage for us. And nothing's ever been done about that, and I wonder if that would still go ahead.
Yeah, it was also brought to my attention that it was ideal for the disabled parking and that, and.
I don't think it's big enough, like, because you have to have such a big space
Mhm.
for parking.
I'm sure we could get at least one car, but there is no disabled parking allowed on that dock, and that is our property, but
You know,
I hadn't heard about another building for storage.
that was when they tore it down once.
Uh-huh,
All of a sudden, there was a sign on it that it was condemned.
Yeah.
We were wanting to fix it, but
yeah. So at this point in time, is it
thank you.
reasonable that we could revisit this in any way, shape or form? Theo?
Through you, Madam Mayor, so it depends on how the vote goes with regards to the, with regards to my report here before council. So if it's lost, it certainly could be revisited. If it is carried as presented, then we go forward.
Okay, we'll do it as a recorded vote then.
Perfect, thank you. So moved by Councillor Halton, seconded by Councillor Jablonski, that administration report number AD 004-25 regarding declaring land surplus property be received. And that council declares the property legally described as Plan OS, Part Lot 2, roll number 1001-020-09200, with the PIN number being 36317-0150R, owned by the Township of Frontenac Islands as surplus to the needs of the municipality. And further, that staff be directed to proceed with the necessary steps for the disposition in accordance with the township's land disposition bylaw 012-2006, applicable legislative requirements. Councillor Ackley,
In favor.
Councillor Holton,
In favor.
Councillor Jablonski,
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Saunders,
In favor.
Mayor Greenwood Spears,
Nay.
motion is carried.
Excuse me. Okay. Now. There's no side comment. We're at action items. The EOWC, Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, support a Canadian and Ontario government's negotiation with the United States government on trade tariffs.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Moved by Councillor Jablonski, second by Councillor Ackley, that the request for resolution support received from the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus supporting the Canadian and Ontario governments on the measures they have put in place in response to the U.S. tariffs on Canadian goods, and ask that they take any and all measures to protect the interests of Ontario in supporting, in any upcoming trade negotiations, and ensure municipalities are part of the coordinated team approach be endorsed or received.
Okay, Councillor Jablonski, any?
Only one comment that please not to support this, so. It'd be seen not to support this, so this is a great effort by the Canadian government, municipal governments.
Okay, Councillor Holton,
I fully support this.
okay. Deputy Mayor Saunders,
Yes, I would endorse the
Absolutely.
resolution.
okay, and Councillor Ackley,
I'm in favor.
okay, and let you know, I had discussion regarding this very recently at the county level and that. And it was being pushed back that we are still under the CUSMA and NAFTA rules, because my position was that we should not be having the US suppliers, and that was before the premier had come out with his opposition for any further contracts and dealings with the US. So this actually may be a little bit dated at this point in time, but I'm happy to support it because the intent is to actually try to favor our Canadian suppliers rather than American. And that, but they did push back at the county level and I suggested they didn't think we had the authority to do it. So I guess we'll push along and say, take us to court, I guess.
Thank you. All those in favor? Carried.
Okay, now Regional Municipality of Durham Resolution. Ban on the Nazi swastika in Canada.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Deputy Mayor Saunders, second, that the request for support received from the Durham Region Council regarding support nay Brits Council to the Government of Canada to pass legislation banning, with exceptions for certain educational and artistic purposes, the public display of Nazi symbols and iconographic, including the Nazi swastika, be endorsed or received.
Discussion, Councillor Jablonski.
Probably one of the most distasteful symbols in our history that I can think of, and I fully support having that ban for anything in Canada.
Okay, Councillor Holton.
I would support this.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Saunders
I endorse it.
and Councillor.
That's for it.
Yeah. Of course, nobody wants to have the Nazi version of the swastika. Just for your information, the swastika is actually part of the Hindu writings and is meant to be good luck. That's why the Nazis weaponized it during the time frame and put it on everything else. So I'll go along with banning it, the Nazi swastika. I wonder about the town of Swastika, which is just north of Kirkland Lake, how they're going to deal with that eventually. But no, I support that as well.
All those in favor? Carried.
Okay, now we're at Larry Bolton's request for public access to Shorewell at Victoria Street. And I see that Mr. Bolton is in presence here today.
I was gonna say through you, Madam Mayor, because there's two items on, one with from Mr. Bolton and one from Mr. Zaborski, requesting the same thing. Would council wish to deal with both matters at the same time?
Is Mr. Zaborski on?
No, he's not.
He's not on, okay. Well, can't really speak for Mr. Zaborski, but
I can.
You can,
He's
go.
talking right now. And I know he wanted this addressed at the last council meeting and didn't get there, so he's asked me to present it again, which I've done.
okay, so are we comfortable with the
It's the same
presentation regarding this?
He would have like 10 minutes max,
Yeah,
and which includes any kind of questions from council.
okay, council, is there appetite to have a presentation done by Larry Bolton? He wasn't listed as a presenter, but he's here.
From my point of view, I think we're all aware of this situation, what has to be done. I have the information here, and Larry and I have talked as well. I'm fine with the presentation.
Okay, Councillor Holton,
Yeah, I've read both letters and I think I understand the situation, but I mean. Maybe more questions after.
so a presentation might help. Matt, did you have a question for the applicant after?
If we're going to go through the same letter, I've already read the letters, so I've read both letters and I think I understand the situation, so.
Right, but for you to question him, that he'd need to be seated.
I don't think I have any questions for them.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Saunders.
Hey, Mayor, I don't, unless there's information that has not been included in the letter, then I see no value in a presentation by the applicant, I guess.
Councillor Ackland.
Yeah, I don't think I need to hear more than on these, two pieces of paper.
Okay, well. Then that limits our ability to get any questions answered from the applicants on it.
But we didn't, that's fine.
I would rather have the presentation that you could at least speak to. And then if there's anything comes up, we can get our answers correct. Yes, Councilor Jablonski.
Well, I think we've all agreed, maybe past the presentation, if Larry would want to take a seat, we have some questions just in case. We've all read it, and we're all aware of what we asked this, but we still have Larry come up and ask a few questions in the meantime.
That's what I was asking, that there's no problem. I
No,
saw the head nod there.
No, that's fine then.
Okay,
Give it a
Yeah, I
couple
just don't
minutes.
think we need to read about it.
okay, then. I'll invite Larry Bolton to come forward. And. If there's questions from council, or if you want to make a few points about your letter. On behalf of your Mr. Zambrowski and that, and then if council has any questions. We'll ask them. Have a seat.
What do you have to me, Mayor? Explain what I've written in the letter?
Do you have any specific points? We've all read the letter and the requests and that. Is there anything you'd like to highlight? Before a decision's made?
One that I've given you is enough information to say that there's quite a few people that could take advantage of this. This event where we're getting a new shore well or getting it upgraded at the end of Victoria Street. And I've been talking to the fire chief ever since they built the new dock in the village, and I asked him if we could have a safe place where anybody can get water. And Timmy said, yeah, we'll look after that. But, and then he came back to me and said, no, we can't do that. And then there was a water source up there in the marsh. It's not much good to anybody, I guess. So we see another opportunity where we can get clean water, not potable water, but just clean water that we can use for washing, bathrooms, whatever. And there's a lot of people around here that can take advantage of that. And so it just seems like such an easy thing. When the shore well is being installed right now, all we need is a 2-inch line to go down into that well, with a 2-inch cam lock. We can hook on it and we can pump it ourselves. Anybody can. So it just seems like such an easy thing to do from our point of view.
Okay, Councilor Jablonski.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Larry. Just one fast question for a lot of people. Do you have an idea how many people would be using this type of system? Like, do you have it's like a 20, 30? Do you know the people who's gonna be involved? I'm just looking at numbers here.
You know, I can think of a dozen pretty quickly, and there's probably, once people see that it's there, there's a lot more people that could take advantage of it as well.
Thanks, Larry.
Okay,
I don't wanna really say a number because I haven't talked to these people, but I know that I see them hauling water, and in fact, I've hauled water for some of them, so. So it's just something that can be used and really it's just no expense to it, eh? It's just so easy to do.
okay. Any other questions?
Okay.
Okay,
Well, so
Deputy
I-
Mayor Saunders?
I'll say round two. So thank you for your time, Mr. Golden. For perspective, I live on the water and I have a shower well, and I know what it's like to run out of water, so I can appreciate your concern. My concern is I would view this as the municipality providing water to residents. And based on the earlier comments that Councilor Holton made, I think we would bear some responsibility, some risk or whatever, if something should go wrong. We can't guarantee who's picking up the water, how it's being treated, or how it's being used. So for me, I think there's a lot of risk associated for the township if we proceed with this.
Okay, Larry?
I can't see where there's any responsibility to the township at all. It's the same as me going down to anywhere and throw a line off a dock and suck water out of it. There's nobody asking me to do that, nobody telling me to do that. There's no responsibility, it's just we're doing. All I'm asking you is giving us a place where we can reach the water. And that year round, you know, we have a real problem in the wintertime trying to get water. And I don't believe there's any. You know, those water lines run up a couple streets here right now, from the water up to different buildings that are here and being used. It's not potable water. I just don't see any danger to it.
Okay, Councilor Holton.
So I agree, Larry, this looks like a great convenient idea on the surface, but it's not that simple. Once we are providing it, basically, we have to follow the water regulations, and basically, you're gonna find if you look. We can't provide it to you unless it's, treated potable water. And items that, for instance, contamination, you know, if you drop that in a well, you guys are gonna suck it out, well, there's gonna be some come back in. The city of Kingston, you just can't go and hook up to a hydrant. You have to have permission, you have to be a licensed water hauler, you have to have backflow prevention. So, I just see this putting us in a terrible liable position.
I might say you're already in that position. That's all I'm saying.
Okay,
That's even scarier.
Councillor Ackley,
Oh, I have any comment there?
okay. I'll go to the CEO on that. I believe it's regulation 402. That is, the Water Act, and my question is, how many people are currently hooked onto this line that we're providing up the street?
Through
And are
you,
we in compliance?
through you, Madam Mayor. So, the shore well that we have installed feeds the seniors home, the community building, or, sorry, the community center, so the rink, and the fire hall. My understanding is, yes, we are in compliance because they are treated at the source up there, not at the well here.
Are there any private residents that also have benefited this?
No, not to my knowledge.
Councillor Holton,
I can add some clarity to that. There is actually 2 shore wells going in there. The residents are putting theirs in at the same time, which is resulting in a cost savings for everybody. But that is, and if you, the water regulations are pretty complex, but basically, if you have 5 or under, people being served from one water source, it's not considered a municipal water. So that's how, I understand, Larry, but
You don't
Washington
take one
happens,
person to get sick, so what's the difference?
Washington happened, Larry, and that's the regulations that we live under today. If somebody privately wants to put in a cam lock and a pipe, that might work for a group to get together and do it.
So my question is, if that's big enough, maybe, I don't know, 6-inch pipe or whatever, into that shore well, I can drop a line down into that well?
No.
Did you just say if you do it on your own,
But a shore well, they say, put your own in.
Put your own in.
Yeah.
put my line into that shore well there?
Put your own separate shore well in.
Yeah.
You just can't draw out of the municipal well.
Well, I didn't come here, guys, but I just come in here to make a.
What about asking the hotel if they can, if they'll let you put one in there?
What's that, Tim?
Well, the hotel's putting in a, right, isn't it, the hotel, it's private?
Yeah.
Well, what about a private one?
Yeah,
If they let you in, the other one. The other shore well that's going in right now is private, if you go and see them and ask them if you could drop a line in, maybe you could, because it doesn't belong to the municipality.
I wasn't aware of that.
So that may work,
okay,
go see Tom at the hotel.
it sounds like it's not the hotel that's involved with it, though.
Well,
So
no,
the
he's
people up
from the
Victoria's.
hotel. It's his shore well.
It is shore well that's going in, okay,
What's his last name? Tom Carpenter.
okay,
I would do that. I don't know if that'll,
all right.
I know that's why the fire department quit drawing water, because we were gonna be charged with the liability if something happened.
Okay,
You need less lawyers.
Rules. Such the rules.
Thank you for your time.
okay, thank you very much. Now we're going to be, if there's any other questions or discussion on this. So I've been assured that we are in compliance with regulation 402 because we're servicing the sites to make it drinkable. Is it drinkable at the retirement home, at the community center, at the fire hall? It is not?
No.
Not at the fire hall.
not drinkable at fire hall. We have a system on it, but we still don't drink it. Like it passes, we probably could, but
Okay,
we
so-
still put down it's not drinkable because it's going into a tank.
What do you mean going into a tank?
For fire.
Gets pumped into an outside tank from the river. And then we go through a UV system,
Yeah,
but we still won't drink the water.
Okay, just for my clarity, that usually the water gets pumped into your cistern type of thing,
Basically,
and then it's treated as it comes out.
yeah,
And
we probably could put a whole system in and get it treated, but. we
so
don't
this,
have it.
okay, so this part is part of the confusion I've often heard, that the water at the retirement home isn't drinkable.
It should
But
be,
it
because it's
should
got a
be.
full treatment system on it. It has chlorine,
Mm,
UV, the whole system.
okay. Okay, Chief Quinn,
Just to add, which is part of that regulation, what's important is it's treated at each of those sites at the site location and it is tested. And it's tested regularly through water samples that head off to the health unit. So those sites. Properties of the municipality, there's an obligation in doing the regular testing, so
so
that.
usually on a quarterly basis or a half-year basis. I know I do quarterly in my own private system. On this note, since we've had the discussion earlier regarding communal in the village, the shore well that we've invested in, will it ever be part and parcel if there's communal water to the village? Has that been put into the formula of investing?
through you, Madam Mayor, no, not at this time.
Not at this time. Okay, and how much of a budget item is it that we're putting in for this shore well?
Council approved 50,000 and, we got a quote that came in, correct me if I'm wrong, Jess, I want to say 20 to 25,000.
Okay. All right. So going back to our point. The request for public access for Shorewell at Victoria Street. We will handle both, Mr. Bolton's and Mr. Zabarski's together,
I have two separate
two
motions.
separate, okay?
But, so they're both the same, but, moved by Councillor Ackley, second by Councillor Holton, the request received from Mr. Bolton regarding public access to the newly installed shore well at Victoria Street, servicing the seniors home, the community center, and the fire hall be received.
Any further discussion on receiving that? All right, all those in favor of receiving it? Okay, by doing that, have we just agreed to the public access to that?
No.
No.
No. Councilor Jablonski.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Let's get together after this meeting, just for a few minutes and discuss what possibilities are outside this township for helping.
Okay, speak through to you can do that. Okay, the next one,
Moved by Councillor Holton, second by Deputy Mayor Saunders, request received from Mr. Zaborski regarding public access to the newly installed shore well at Victoria Street, servicing the seniors home, the community center, and the fire hall be received for information.
you're adding for information.
Yes, I am.
Any further no, we're past the discussion piece at this point. Any further discussion by council? All those in favor? Okay, now we're at the public question period. Are there any questions? Do I see any online? No? Gentlemen, state your name and location, please.
Mike Raleigh, Ellen's Lane, Wolf Island. Questions or comments, you were talking about this water treatment thing, I had no idea what that's about. But the accusation that you as elected officials could be held personally liable, I find disturbing. As a former insurance broker that insured municipalities, you would have, unless you're self-insured, comprehensive general liability. A component of that would be called professional directors and officers liability. You'd be protected under that. As well, for other staff, there's employer's liability. So I don't believe that you could actually be held personally liable. And your intact insurance broker could answer your questions free of charge. Also to do with the water, Councillor Halton mentioned the regulations and the 5 people drawing, it becomes an issue. There was a scoping study done here 20 years ago. I think I ran for council around there, and it was quite thick. It was paper. I don't have a copy of it, but it got into a lot of details about water in the village. And being a new resident, I was quite interested, so I read the whole thing. And Councillor Halton is absolutely right. Even though it seems like common sense, it's a ticking time bomb for liability for this community. And I could tell at the time that council and the mayor desperately wanted to kick it down the road. The Ministry of the Environment wanted an action plan because they had identified several places in the village where more than 5 people were drawing. It's the splits after it draws from there. So water is definitely an issue that is ongoing on the island. Best discussed out of the public eye so that some plan can be developed. The beach bathroom, I invited our chief building officer to attend a second course with me. And this was one of the things we kind of talked about during the break. There's no hydro out there, and it doesn't sound like there's ever going to be. Also, there's no septic bed, and the design criteria to have a septic bed out there as a public washroom would be the size of a football field. So I think the plan was always to have a septic tank and have a pump out. I'm not sure if that's installed. And then the other issue is the water. Marcel said that could probably fix the water situation by just having a holding tank, a 12-volt battery and some solar panels and run it with RV motors. So it would be good to have the money that's been put into that building used for a public washroom. The vacant lot at the summer dock. I'm with the fire chief. I'm familiar with that building when it was torn down, and it didn't seem to me like there was anything wrong with it. If there was a possibility of the fire department using that land for a building, then that would be great to have some kind of fire services building there. And if not, I think the previous store owner Coffees, they gave it to the municipality for fire services for $1. If it can't be used for fire services, I'm wondering if council might be receptive to giving it back to the store owner for $1. I don't know that the municipality should really profit from the generosity of a business owner. And the last thing is there any way that this screen could be fixed and made much brighter? Because it's impossible to read, at least back here. It was brighter at the beginning of the meeting. So I don't know if there's a photo sensor on it, but it's very dark.
Well, I think that like.
Thank you.
Yeah, the way on the front. It should really be on.
Okay, if you want to see, just put your hand up.
Sorry.
Okay. All right, so there's a bit more information regarding the bathrooms out there. Thank you for the beach bathrooms and the challenges. I'm sure the CEO's made note of that. And the report that you referenced regarding the water, I believe was 2006, that report was done, and I actually had read it. And you had no specific question to any particular counselor?
No.
And that, okay. Nobody on.
Oh, question there.
You want to come forward? Okay, yes, we have another person here. State your name and address, please.
I'm Kimberly Thomas, 15 Pine Road, Wolfine. I have a question. Does anybody want an update on the Senate talk? Because I have good news. That's my question. I have it, but I don't know if I can get it without.
Well, it's not on the agenda,
Yes,
although I did bring forward that the
Oh, yes.
Heroes
So I can speak
funding,
to
so
that,
I think that
yes.
we can.
okay,
If you have
so,
clarity.
because of the generosity of this council to, state the in-kind donations along with our efforts from the community to do fundraising, we've been accepted by Veterans Affairs Community War Memorial Funding. They will, match up to $25,000 of particular expenses to, build our cenotaph. It's listed specifically which expenses are to be matched, but, even if we didn't get everything we wanted and we just matched those ones, we're gonna be able to build a really nice monument. We will have to go to the community for a portion of the fundraising. The other part of the fundraising is because of the in-kind donations, the majority of which was from the township and this council standing behind us. They came back to me at the last minute, needing letters of this, letters that, this and that, by about a 3 or 4 day deadline. If Bessie hadn't got behind it, we would have missed the deadline and been another year off requesting the funding. So just a really exciting opportunity, that this community is gonna have a cenotaph to honor the 11 boys who died in World War I and World War II, who were residents of Wolf Island, who were promised a cenotaph in the 40s, and you guys are gonna do it, I think. We had a committee meeting on last Friday to discuss how we want to do the fundraising. We have a lot of really great ideas, but the first thing we need to do is get a method for people to donate. So we're working on that. We'll be coming back to you and to the community with more information, but just really proud of us for working together on this. And I think that our goal is to get it done by November 11th this year. And I'm really thinking that that's gonna happen. A lot of effort from a lot of people in our community, and you guys, thank you. And that's all.
Excellent.
Okay, well, I think it was the instigation of you and your small group that needs the best credit for it, because you led it. And I'm glad that we were able to assist. Councillor Jablon.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Just one fast question. Do we have a fixed price set and what's gonna cost? It'd be much easier to see, we work towards a number as opposed to saying, how much can we get? It'd be better if it's gonna be $15,000,
Yeah.
and it's a good goal to shoot for, but it's left open, like, as much as we can get, well, what are you gonna build? Like, it'd be nice to know.
We've got we had to give a very detailed plan and budget to the government to get this this approved. I do have a item by item. I put in something that didn't get approved, was $5,000 for lighting. That's something we can look at, okay? We got it, we'll look at it in the daytime, we'll be fine. So it's flexible, but I can certainly council with a list of the budget. And yes, that's one of the things that we're working on, is to be able to go to the community clearly and say, this much is in kind donations, we need this much cash, and I will have a number for you. I would expect by the next meeting. The reason that I don't today is because the final contract from our community, the Veterans Affairs Department, has not been sent to me. I was sent the letter of acceptance and told that the contract that we need to sign would follow, and I haven't seen that yet. I have left a message for the contact there and expect to get it this week, and I'm happy to share it.
That's great work, Kim.
Thank you.
Good job, Jesse, helping.
Yeah.
And you did a lot of the work, so.
Well, you did too. You pulled, we wouldn't have got it without the deadlines being met. So.
Team effort.
So it's not from the Canadian Fallen Heroes Foundation.
Community War Memorial Foundation.
Yes, okay.
Veterans Affairs.
Sorry for the confusion.
No.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's fine that, but I wondered, because that one was specific that I saw for World War II.
Oh, okay.
Veterans. So if you need anything extra, maybe you can.
Well, I was just saying, you got that extra budget thing, so I wanted to go extra.
Well,
20,000-30,000, that'd be great.
The point is you can apply for something specific for World War II.
Okay, well, I will look for that. I was thinking, well, you
Okay.
guys. can all that extra money.
All right.
Thank
Any
you
more
very
comments or questions? No? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, now we're at the statement by members. Councilor July.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Just an update, about ambulatory service on island. We have not given up. We've got more information come up. We're meeting with county end of this month. discuss possible solutions again, still moving forward, so. We told council we have 21 months left this term left, we want something in place before I leave. So we're working on that, but we'll not give up until we have something in place.
Okay, Councillor Halton?
Okay, I have a few items. First and foremost, if you look at my truck, you can see I've been out traveling the roads quite a bit. The side roads are starting to break up. It happens every year. I hope that everybody can just be patient until things get dried up enough that they can get on it with some grader and some gravel. Fargo Store, understand newsletter has been sold. Thanks Steve and Karen for their years at the store. Very encouraging to see James and Kate and family coming in. It's so important to our island, and it's great to see a young family taking it over. Kind of a personal note, but Friday night, my mom had a bit of a medical emergency. Really thank you to the Wolf Island crew. They were bent over backwards to help getting her there. So, last item. We had an incident with a homeless person on the island at the school. Just want to encourage everybody in the community, our resources to help these people with any mental health issues or anything are located in Kingston. So our best effort on the island is to help these people return to Kingston where they could receive help. Of course, if you think it's an immediate threat from somebody, call 911. Otherwise, it would be nice to, if there's somebody wandering around, maybe give the township office and the schools a heads up and let them know. So, thank you.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Saunders,
No, thank you.
Councillor Ackland.
No, I don't have any comments.
Okay, I'll add just a follow-up to Councillor Halton's point of the person that was found at the school hiding in the girls' bathroom. It's the report I heard, and he was escorted back to the boat by township staff. And while that is lovely on one level, and that it's also a concern, I would have hoped that 911 would be engaged with that and that he'd be met on the other side so that proper services could be employed in that. And we certainly wouldn't want to have an unsuspecting staff member finding a knife in the vehicle with them. So I think a little bit more formal approach to anything like that. We don't know the background of the history of the person, and I'm very sympathetic to those in mental health crisis, but I'm also very keenly aware of the safety of the staff as well as the students up there. And there should have been a 911 call made. That said, it was handled. It probably will become, it has already been issues in that, and when we finally get a boat, hopefully sometime back in the village, it will probably be more of a problem. And that for a lot of reasons. And on that note, speaking of the ferry, ferry survey went out with our tax bills. I don't understand how it ended up being sent out to the Howe Island residents since it's a Wolf Island ferry service. I had calls immediately before I even had a copy myself, that of the survey, and that. I've had lots of different people since then raise issues as to where they drop it off to, when is it due by, why we only had 2 options for them. They didn't feel it was consultation, it was more backing them into a corner. There's no request for how many people are in the household so that there'd be individuals that are differently affected. No return address noted or any method of verification. And that's, so I'm glad to hear that the CEO says she's going to do a town hall meeting on March 26th. Do we have a time frame for that?
7 p.m. to 8 p.m.
7 to 8. Yeah, and it's going to be here, I assume.
It'll be here in the gallery, yeah.
What day is
March 26th is a Wednesday evening.
Wednesday evening? Okay. And at that time, is there any opportunity to have an update from MTO on anything related to our ferry service?
If I have one, I would be more than happy to give one. I can reach out, but I'm not making any promises.
Okay, and what is your method for securing validity of this survey? In other words, discarding the ones from Hell Island? I'm sure Hell Islanders wouldn't appreciate us surveying how your Hell Island ferry should work. So you can imagine that it hit a note in that for people, so are we considering potentially a new survey in that would have the requirement of at least putting their address on?
I wouldn't be able to get a new survey out now, but please, anybody watching, spread it around. Put your name and address on the bottom of it. You can email it back to myself or to Lisa. Drop it off here at the office, whichever. I know Lisa already has a file folder started out there with a bunch of surveys returned, so.
Is it flagged prominently on our website for people to be able to click on it?
I don't know, I'll have to follow up with the staff on that one.
Another point, somebody thought that I was behind the survey. For the record, I'm certainly not behind this survey. And it's not one of my previous surveys. And I did recognize that it's very similar to some of the old MTO surveys and that, so I'm sympathetic that the limiting of the two options and that was especially problematic. Anyways, we'll try to get it better, and maybe by March 26th, we'll have a wonderful piece of information. And if we do have MTO, I'm sure you could probably extend it the hour to allow for better timing.
So just for clarification, I'm only seeking input with regards to the 2-hour layover, not dual ferry service, not any other kind of service. It's just the 2-hour ferry layover.
Right. And so if MTO can have a representative there to explain why they need to have the 2 hours and what their constraints are around that, that might be helpful. Just to let you know, I am invited and have been on with the Border Mayors Alliance, which is any of the mayors that are along the border, and that the group is coordinating strongly with the provincial and federal governments across the provinces and that, and basically reaching out to the mayors that I know on the South Shore and that, trying to make sure that we have a good working relationship, and truly any changes that are brought forward at the US level will be brought forward by their own people. We don't get to influence, we just get to tariff and deal with it, but they get to do better influences. So we've always had a good relationship with the mayors along the St. Lawrence and Cape Benson on down. So working forward to get better support that way. And that's it for my statement. Now we have a notice of motions. Anyone providing notice of motions? Seeing none. Announcements. Councilor Jablonski, any announcements?
Nothing serious. Thanks, Madam Mayor. Just a reminder that there will be a fire department fundraiser coming up in the summertime, golf tournament. So bring your money and we'll have ambush at the band and full dinner. So and again, I mentioned for the fire department, we all put money into the fire department. So I ask everybody, and we'll finally come on out, have a nice time.
But no date on that.
I have it down on 19th.
What?
19th of July.
Thanks.
July 19th,
Thank
so
you.
is that gonna be like the fire department ball that we had there?
No, this, through you, Madam Mayor, this is two people that approached me and want to know if they could put on a fundraiser for the fire department. Billy Allison and, I always call him Jay, what's his right name?
Oh, Jay.
Paul Robinson. So they wanted to put a big fundraiser on it, and I mean, they went over the top with sponsors and each hole sponsored for like $100 a piece, and ambush is paid for by a sponsor,
So it's a golf tournament type of,
golf tournament, and then a steak dinner up at the community center. Hey, yes.
and a dance. So you can
Steak
get
dinner
a
and
dance.
dance, yep.
Okay, so the people that don't want to play golf, and that's still.
They can
an
come to the
opportunity.
dance, or there'll be some tickets available for the meal too, if they wanna do the steak dinner.
Sounds lovely.
Yeah.
Okay. Good announcement. Councilor Holton?
No announcements today, thanks.
Okay, Councilor Saunders, or Deputy Mayor Saunders?
No,
Okay,
No,
Councillor Ackley?
don't have.
Okay, I saw an email notice for the Better Ferry Service Group. They're meeting on Tuesday at the hotel, apparently it's still open. At 6:30 PM, for anybody that wants to go to that. The Euchres continue, and we're hoping they continue into April for, St. Margaret's Hall, and I know they're still on a monthly basis, it seems, over on Howe Island. Great euchre battles here, and aside from that, I don't think there's any other announcements. And that, now we're to the bylaws.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So for the bylaws, we have, 4 that we're looking for 3 readings and final passage, and then the final bylaw being the confirmatory bylaw. The first one is the general rates and fees. This has been brought before council on several occasions. The next one is the appointment of a building inspector. We are not hiring another staff person. This is for coverage for our current CBO. If he has to be off for sick or vacation or whatever, that it is built into the building budget.
We do them separately, I take it. Okay, well, we'll first one because I have questions on that one.
Bear with me. The next one is the adoption of the personnel policy, which was presented to council at the last meeting. The next one is the appointment of the deputy clerk, and then the final one is the confirmatory one. So at the request of you, Madam Mayor, you would like the general fees and rates pulled out and addressed over there.
Yes. Can I start it now?
You sure can.
Okay, at the last meeting that I noted that there was charges for using the hall for any nonprofit groups, et cetera. But the meeting room, where there's only a meeting room on the Howe Island side, was free for nonprofit organizations and that, and I asked if that be looked at. Now, that was one piece of it. The other piece was regarding up at the community center, the horse corral area, and I see it's still missing. And since then, I actually was contacted by a person looking for information on that, and I directed him to the CAO in that regards, but at this point in time, I don't feel it's fair that Wolf Island residents are charged if they're a nonprofit group for the community hall, when we don't have a meeting room to provide them free, but on the Howe Island side, they get it for free. So I'd like to have that addressed by you as to how that's fair for our residents.
So I apologize, Madam Mayor, I'm not following.
Well, I asked that these be looked at, that a rate be assigned or at least assessed for the horse corral. Because everybody else is getting a rate assigned, whether it's a ball diamond or hockey rink or anything else. And then when we got down to the rentals for indoor facilities, the Wolf Island side didn't have a meeting room. Because we don't have a meeting room other than this hall, but that had a rate assigned to it. Whereas at the township office on Howe Island, not for profit gets it for free.
So with respect to the horse corral, I'm not sure who you provided to reach out to me, but I've not received anything from anyone with regards to that. So that being said, the bylaw can always be amended at a later date with further information being brought forward. I feel that we need to get something on the books. We've not had anything. We don't have anything. And if council directs that, you know, there's no meeting room rates for nonprofit, then we can strike that. But I'm presenting it going forward that at least we get something on the books to have, and then we can amend it at a later date.
Okay, so I guess I would look towards a motion to have the nonprofit organization rate eliminated for the community hall. And that to make it fair for Wolf Island residents to have an opportunity to have something for free.
So for clarification, Madam Mayor, you're looking to strike the $5 hourly rate?
$5, $30 and $50 an event. For 75. Unless we can make it parallel for the meeting room rate. For Howell, and that which is 35, 45, 55 and free at the start. So I would say we should.
For, sorry, just for clarification, just for the nonprofit or for everyone?
For the nonprofit. Actually, you made a valid point that the nonprofit apparently doesn't get charged at all. On Howell Island for the meeting room rate, so I'd say 0 all the way across for a nonprofit organization. And I think of the group that's currently meeting at the hotel right now. And different groups that do meet at the hotel because they don't have opportunity to have meeting room for free.
So if I could I suggest that,
Deputy Mayor,
following the CEO's request, we approve the existing bylaw. And for those concerns that have been addressed, since it seems quite complicated, perhaps they should be put together in a letter so they're clear, and then bring that back to the next meeting for modification.
okay,
I'm losing track of.
well, we actually had quite an extensive discussion last on Howell Island, where I expected it to be addressed when it came back to us this time.
Okay, so it wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
All right, so why don't we pass this bylaw, get the fees in place, and then bring those back in a more formal manner, so we understand what we're talking about. That can't problem.
Or we can defer this bylaw until we
Well, that's,
get it clarified.
so is there a motion on the floor, Madam Clerk?
No, I don't have a motion.
Okay,
Madam Mayor had proposed a motion with regards to, I was seeking clarification for. The removal of the fees for the nonprofit organization rate for the community hall.
correct.
So that would be a motion that she's putting forward. If I could get a seconder, we could proceed.
I will second that as long as it's, they are a registered nonprofit organization.
Is that applicable to Howell Island, that they're a registered nonprofit organization?
Well, how else do you know if they're nonprofit?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, and just to speak logistically, with the community hall, the whole purpose of this is it is a source of revenue. It's a stream where people can use the hall space, right? Like that's what's wanted. These rates, again, they're not split Wolf or Howe. It's just basically on room where you make a point. We're not actively looking to rent the space on Howe Island, like it is office space. So again, right now, I'm not against if we clarify and say they have to be registered non-for-profit. I just want to clarify the distinction between this hall and that room is this hall is something we want to more make available and have that opportunity to rent. Where again, the council chambers of the meeting room on Howe, the space is there and there might be the odd times it's used, but it's not necessarily something that we're actively trying to rent out.
Right.
Again, though, like if we want to clarify not for profit, I'm fine with that. If you know, because basically anyone who's a group where there's going to be no businesses, it's residents, so there should probably be a clarification. What is not for profit?
Right, I think of not only the group that's having to meet down at the hotel and that, but even the historical society. When they have their AGM, and that's a registered not-for-profit. There's a lot of different opportunities in that, so I think that this hall has been paid for by the residents of the community and they should have access to it when they're not making great funds at it, that they should have the same equal access to it at a zero amount, but I don't think that they have to be a registered not-for-profit in that they are probably still getting organized or may never be. For example, Feral Cats, I have no idea whether they're a registered not-for-profit, but they do a lot of good things here and having to meet down at the hotel. And that, so I just want to level the playing field for it, and that still doesn't, well, I'll leave it back to Councillor Holton if he'd still like to second it with the qualification that they are a registered not-for-profit. It's more towards community groups.
No, at this point in time, I think we just need to go ahead and pass this. Even if not for profit, if they can't pay $35 for the room, this room takes some setup. It's not set up as a meeting room. It might be used as a gallery. I don't think it's an issue. Let's just pass this bylaw.
What about if we flip that then and put the same rates down for the meeting room that's over on Howe? For the not-for-profit.
We don't use it enough.
Okay. So I haven't got a seconder for that motion. Have I? Okay.
Okay, so. Motion on the table. Moved by Deputy Mayor Saunders, second by Councillor Halton, that 3 readings and final passage be granted to bylaw numbers 039-2024, which is the one that we were just discussing. 006-2025, 007-2025, 008-2025, and 009-2025, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed?
And the last one is moved by Deputy Mayor Saunders, second by Councillor Ackley, the regular meeting of council held on March 10, 2025, adjourned. All those in favor?